Thank you for joining me on the Investing for Freedom podcast. Last week, we discussed the 4 different types of leverage that Naval Ravikant talks about. And I proposed, that I thought one of the most important types of leverage is relationship capital, which reviewing some of the 4 types of leverage are capital, labor, code, and media, which I agree with all of those. And you could argue that relationships fall into, all of those categories or some of those categories. But I kind of wanted to bring it back to something that I've been thinking about. And really, it's the Zig Ziglar quote: you can have everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. Or as I've said so many times, everything you need is on the other side of a human. And I don't mean this in a negative way, but it really, if you just learn how to leverage your relationships, then you can have everything you want, because really, the only reason you're going to have those relationships is if it's a give and take and it's a true win-win. And so if you just put it in the proper perspective, everything you need is on the other side of a human. So I would argue that the most important type of leverage is leveraging your relationships and that relationship capital. Now, talking through this a little bit, I think we live in one of the most interesting times that has ever existed. Back in the day, there was this concept of 6 degrees of separation. Basically, anybody that you needed to get in touch with or have a relationship with, you knew somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody that had what you need, right? So 6 degrees of separation. And I don't remember when it was probably 10 or 15, 20 years ago. Bill Gates started, maybe 10 years ago, he started, I think Microsoft did a study, and you can see this in LinkedIn. If you spend any amount of time in LinkedIn, there's 1 to 2 to maybe 3 degrees of separation now. And part of this is because of that leverage that Naval's talking about when it comes to code and data and the social leverage, meaning, social media, et cetera. And so it's really taken that 6 degrees of separation down to 1 degree or maybe 2 degrees of separation. And really, I don't know if you found yourself saying this at any point in time, but man, what a small world, because somebody that knows somebody, or you just met somebody that, somebody else was talking about. And that's in the personal side of things. But really, when you bring this down into the relationships, and I think there's really kind of 4 different types of relationships, if you will. And that's obviously your personal relationships, which is you actually know that person on a personal level. And then I think there's partnership relationships, we're in business partnerships together, that type of thing. And then there's client relationships, where we service our clients and we do business with our clients. But then there's the social side of relationships too, which I think are, the people that really we don't know on a one-on-one level. And by the way, we might not know some of our business partners on a one-on-one level. We might not know some of our client relationships on a one-on-one level. But when we look at social media, and I'm such a fan of it today, because there are a lot of people. I was literally at lunch last week, Karen and I, with a couple that the lady was saying, she said, I feel like I know you. And I hear this so many times. And I feel this way as well. When I meet individuals that I've been following on social media for a while, I feel like I already know them. And this is a powerful, powerful thing. There's so much, hate and discontent. There's so much hate and discontent around social media nowadays. But the reality is, if you use it properly, it's a powerful tool. And what I think that really comes back to is the thing that, Karen and I are always talking about this. We're all consumers, but at the end of the day, the more that we can create relationships, the more we can create products, the more we can create good and positive things in our life versus consuming it, the better off we're going to be. In fact, this is the key to financial freedom, is making sure that we consume less than we create. So many people are like, make sure that your income is more than your expenses, or your expenses are less than your income, either way you want to say it. And the reality is, it's the same thing with consumption and creation. Really, we just need to make sure that we're, with social media specifically, social media is not bad. The way that we use it is bad. And you could argue with me and say, well, Mike, these guys are intentionally manipulating, they're intentionally invading my privacy, et cetera. I understand all of that. But as Naval said, we live in this data age. We live in this age of code, and we're not going to hide from it. Unless we go into a really, really, really dark depression in winter, this is the life that we live. And so anyway, back to the relationship side of leverage. I just wanted to bring this back to this, because I think the most successful people in the world they're successful because they've really learned to leverage their relationships. And again, personal relationships, people you know one-on-one, partnerships that we get into business with. I would not be nearly as successful as I am today if it hadn't been for partnerships along the way. Because, Karen and I say this with a couples mastermind all the time. 2 plus 2 pulling in the same direction can equal 100. We can put out 100 times more energy and effort if we're pulling in the same direction than you trying to do it on your own. And that's really a form of leverage. So partnerships, clients, these relationships are super powerful, but the social aspect of this, and I'm sorry for those of you that are introverts. I'm sorry for those of you that don't want to be in partnership. I'm sorry for those of you who, don't want to deal with your clients. Oh, everybody's just a pain in the rear. The reality at the end of the day is that the only way to be successful in life is to leverage and figure out how to build more relationships. There's a study that's done that, most of us can really only handle 120 to 150 real core key relationships within a community. But the reality is, when it comes to social media, if you learn to leverage this properly and you learn to leverage your business partners, you can build more clients, you can have a bigger community. It's just about how do we learn to nurture this and effectively manage those relationships. And I think, again, I'm kind of hitting on social media here because I think everybody understands that we need to have personal relationships in our life. But when it comes to social media, back to the example of, I've met so many people that I feel like I know. Why? Because I'm following them on social media. And when people show up on social media as their authentic self, then that's how we really get to know them. And that's why so many people say to me, Mike, I feel like I know you already because I've been listening to your podcast for, so long. Why do they feel like they know me? Because I'm just sharing my truth. Like, what are the things, if you listen to this podcast for any amount of time, you can probably tell what's important to me. It's traveling the world. It's being with Kara. It's, spending time with my children. It's being able to, it's not that I don't want to work hard. I love work and I love business, but I don't want to have to. If I'm not feeling good today, I don't want to have to go into work today. If one of my children needs me, I don't want to have to go into work today. If something happens to someone in my life and I need to take a week or two off, I don't want to have to be, going to work when really my family needs me. And so those are the things that are important. And again, back to the social aspect, the reason why people feel like they know me is because I share it all the time on social media. So what am I saying here? The world has changed. It's not 6 degrees of separation anymore. It's literally 1 degree of separation. You can find anybody that you want to find on social media. And if you just go and look, you can see which one of your friends are their friends. And you could, if you want to be really strategic about this, you can strategically get to almost anybody that you want. Back in the day, and Chris, one of my friends and mentors, Chris Harder, is a master at this. If I call Chris and I say, hey, Chris, I want to run this idea by you. This is what I'm interested in and excited to do. And he says, I think I'm just calling Chris in order to just run an idea by him. But you know what Chris says every time? I've got just the guy for you that could help you for that. That's not why I called Chris. I just called him to run the idea by him. But he's always introducing me to people. And that's awesome that Chris has built those types of relationships. And it proves that it's possible because Chris's Rolodex is thousands of people. And it's not thousands of people that, he met on LinkedIn. It's thousands of people that he literally knows. Maybe he originally met him on LinkedIn or Instagram or, in a mastermind or whatever. But in this day and age, with the ability to continue to connect, we're reaching this age where we can effectively manage more relationships because of the ability to not only text them, but to reach out to them on social media and follow their life and comment on their birthdays and their children's, their children being born and their children's birthdays, et cetera. And so social media can be a very, very powerful, powerful, powerful tool if we use it properly. And back to Naval's thing, which I was touching on last week. When it comes to code and media and Raul Powell talking about us being in the exponential age, there's a lot of reasons for that. But I think one of the main reasons is we all live in a social media world where we're able to stay more connected. And so again, we're way past the day of 6 degrees of separation. We're into 1 degree of separation. You can basically get in touch with anybody that you want to. I can't tell you how many times in the last couple months where I've been talking with someone or connected with someone and we've already connected with social media or we have a mutual friend. Literally, I was at the Wellspring with Pete Vargas and I met a couple there and the guy's name is Joe. And he reached out to me the other day on social media and he says, Mike, how do you know this lady named Laura? I won't mention her last name. How do you know Laura? And I said, well, her son used to be married to my aunt years ago. And he's like, man, that's crazy. Laura is my great aunt. So Laura is his great grandma's sister. It's just such a wild world. And, you know, back in the day, all this, it's not like this is new and just happening. It's the fact that we're able to connect it now because of this social media world that we live in. And so what's the point of all of this? I'm just saying that everything you need is on the other side of a human. And in this day and age, we have no excuses to sit in our house and not go out and connect to other people, because everything we need is on the other side of a human. And social media and our personal relationships and our partnerships and our client relationships, that's the key to success. And so if you're not successful in this day and age, it's because you're burying your head in the sand, and because you really just don't know how, or don't want to know how to connect to humans. So I want to challenge you to maybe think about social media and your relationships through this framework. What are the different types of relationships? Your personal relationships, your partnership relationships in business, investing, et cetera, your client relationships when it comes to work and your business, but then your social relationships. I really want to challenge you to maybe try and take your social relationships to another level, because there's power in connecting with humans. And I'm going to share in another episode with you the way that I've been thinking about this framework. Really, our widget doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the human element of it. And so I would encourage you to just take advantage of the 1 degree of separation world that we live in today, and just go out there and make some more connections, because that's where success lies. That's where peace lies. That's where joy lies, is in having more amazing humans in your world. Go out there and make it great.